Temperature is another really important part about chemistry. And temperature is basically referring to how much hot or cold a substance has, hotness or coldness. Anyway, temperature is related to energy, but energy is not temperature. So we'll talk more about that in Chem 222. But anyway, there's 3 temperature scales that are very common. The 2 that we're going to use the most, the first one is Celsius. Celsius was described by that guy Celsius, and anyway, it's in degrees Celsius. A lot of times in chemistry, people will record things in the lab in Celsius and then convert to Kelvin later. Kelvin is used most of the time for calculations, and Kelvin is pretty cool. Notice that Kelvin doesn't have a degree symbol next to it. It's a long story why that's the case, but officially it's degrees Celsius, and you don't put degrees Kelvin. Now, you will see degrees Kelvin, especially in astronomy and in photography, and I don't know why those two fields have to use the improper version of temperature, but you are now hip to the actual things. You're not supposed to use degrees next to Kelvin. You use it next to Celsius, and you use it next to Fahrenheit. Now, Fahrenheit is the one that's used a lot in the USA, just like feet and inches and all that kind of stuff are used. Fahrenheit is used. I will try super hard to not use Fahrenheit at all in this class because it's awkward. I'll talk about it why here in a little bit. But it is used in the USA, and if you listen to the radio or TV, it'll talk about temperatures in Fahrenheit. It won't be Celsius. In Canada and most of the world, they do talk about Celsius temperatures. But so we'll have to talk about some ways to translate from Celsius to Fahrenheit or Fahrenheit to Celsius. But just realize we're going to try really hard to stay away from it as all possible. Why we want to stay away from Fahrenheit is because here's a comparison of the 3 scales. Celsius and Kelvin on the right and Fahrenheit on the left. And notice the difference between the freezing point of water and the boiling point of water. Celsius and Kelvin both have it set up so that it's exactly 100 degrees, one of those powers of 10, which is super, super cool. And Fahrenheit, though, the difference is 180. Now, the way that the Fahrenheit scale started, they were trying to get the coldest temperature to the boiling point of water, blah, blah, blah. So at the time, I understand that made sense for the Fahrenheit. But Celsius, when he came along, he said, hey, 0 is going to be freezing point of water and 100 degrees Celsius is boiling, which is cool. And then Kelvin came along. Kelvin needed a temperature where at that temperature, all matter stopped moving. 0 Kelvin, which I mentioned earlier. So that's why 0 Kelvin is important. And then 273.15 is the freezing point of water. And 373.15 is the boiling point of water. So the difference being 100 degrees is super, super important. And it makes converting Celsius to Kelvin and Kelvin to Celsius super easy. It is difficult to go from Fahrenheit to Celsius, or even worse, Fahrenheit to Kelvin. You can do it, definitely, but it's kind of a trip. A Kelvin, a difference of 1 Kelvin is equal to a difference of 1 degree Celsius. And that's going to have some pretty serious implications for what's going on. So again, it's not that you can't use Fahrenheit, it's just it's more awkward. The math is harder, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why scientists usually use Celsius and Kelvin. We'll usually measure Celsius in the lab, and with calculations, we'll usually use Kelvin. So again, no degree symbols for Kelvin. But another thing is that Kelvin for chemists is never going to be a negative number, all right? Because if at 0 Kelvin all matter stops, you can't go below 0 Kelvin. That doesn't make any sense. So for us, Kelvin temperatures will never be negative. Celsius and Fahrenheit can be both positive and negative, but Kelvin's never going to be negative. Now, if you look at really hardcore advanced physics theories, once in a while they talk about negative Kelvin temperatures, and that's really, really cool stuff, by the way. Literally cold. No. All right, cracking myself up. Profat back on. Anyway, Kelvin temperatures in chemistry will never be negative numbers because it doesn't make any sense. You might see some negative Kelvins in advanced physics courses, but in chemistry, Kelvin is always going to be a positive number, which is kind of cool when you're calculating. Celsius can be negative, but not Kelvin. And again, if you can try to avoid using the degree symbol in Kelvin, that's also pretty awesome. So you might be asking yourself, how do I convert Celsius to Kelvin or Kelvin to Celsius, Dr. Russell? Great question, random student. So to convert Celsius to Kelvin, or as we'll see, Kelvin to Celsius, you need to know 273.15. And this is a number you just have to memorize. That's all there is to it, because we're going to use this over and over and over again. Now, remembering that Celsius temperatures can be negative, but Kelvin temperatures will never be negative, you add 273.15 to the Celsius to get the Kelvin. So Celsius temperatures, which can be negative, can be turned into positive kelvins by adding 273.15. Likewise, if you have a Kelvin temperature you want to convert to Celsius, you take that Kelvin temperature and subtract 273.15 to get the Celsius temperature. Here are just some examples. 37 degrees Celsius is roughly the body temperature of the body. If you wanted to figure that out in Kelvin, you'd add 273.15 to it to get 310.2 Kelvin. Now, mathematically, it comes out to be 310.15, and I'm rounding to 310.2 Kelvin. I'll talk about why I'm doing this later, but for right now, just realize there's a reason for having the two numbers there. So the little number, the italicized number, is what you get in the calculator. The black number is the number you should actually report, and we'll talk about that soon. Liquid nitrogen is a very cold liquid. It's pretty cool, used in movies sometimes. 77 Kelvin is the temperature of liquid nitrogen. And if you wanted to figure out what that is in Celsius, you would subtract 273.15 from it to get minus 196 degrees Celsius. So again, Kelvin temperatures should never be negative, but Celsius temperatures can be negative. So that's why we're doing it. If you have to use Fahrenheit, and it's sometimes you just have to, and it's also nice to make connections with what you're hearing in the actual world versus what we're doing in the lab, you can do it. You take the Celsius temperature and you multiply by 1.8 or 9/5, and you add 32 to it. So if you have to convert Celsius to Fahrenheit or turn Fahrenheit to Celsius, this is the equation you'd want to use. So if we wanted to turn the liquid helium temperature of 4.2 Kelvin into Fahrenheit, what I would do is I would first take the Kelvin temperature, subtract 273.15 from it to get minus 269.0 Celsius. So that's the Celsius temperature for liquid helium. Then if I wanted that temperature in Fahrenheit, I would multiply 9/5 or 1.8 times minus 269.0. I would add 32, and you get minus 452.2 Fahrenheit, which is freaking cold. All right. 32 Fahrenheit is where ice begins to form if you're waiting for snow days at school. Not that I do that, of course. I'm a sophisticated teacher, but if I was to do it, anyway. So minus 452.2, we would definitely have a snow day. That's really, really cold and stuff. So anyway, so you could do this yourself with temperatures. You could take the Celsius, convert to Fahrenheit or whatever. So here's a problem you might see. Here are three temperatures on the Earth: 29 Celsius, 45 Fahrenheit, 256 Kelvin, and put them order of increasing temperature. So from the coldest to the hottest. All right. So what you'd have to do here is convert all of them to a common temperature scale. And what I would probably do is I would convert them all to Celsius. All right. I would take the Kelvin temperature. I would subtract 273.15 from it to get the Celsius temperature. I would then take the Fahrenheit temperature, which is T degrees F. I would first subtract 32 from it, and then I would divide by 1.8 or 9/5 in order to get the Celsius temperature. And if you do all of that, you should see then the answer comes out to be D. 256 minus 273 gives you a negative temperature. So that would be a negative Celsius temperature would be the coldest, definitely. 45 Celsius minus 32, that would be about 13. I would then divide by 1.8. So that's going to be a pretty small number. It won't be negative, but it will be small in terms of Celsius. And then 29 Celsius would be the largest one. Anyway, I am going to try really hard to never make you do Fahrenheit, though, on actual quizzes and exams, but this is what you would do if you had to translate from one to the other. Volume is another property that has to be measured sometimes. And volume is the area that, or the space that a substance takes up in 3 dimensions, so length, width, and height, or x, y, and z axis. And what chemists usually use for volume are liters, which gets the symbol capital L. Don't use little l, use a capital L. Milliliters, which is little m, big L. And a centimeter cubed, which is centimeter to the 3rd power. And these are used a lot. Now, a milliliter and a centimeter cubed are the same thing. One equals the other. So if you see milliliters, you could cross it out and put centimeters cubed in there, or vice versa, and all the chemists would be really cool about that. And another unit that's used a lot is to convert milliliters to liters. So 1,000 milliliters would be 1 liter. You could also use 1,000 centimeters cubed equals 1 liter. Now, centimeters cubed seem weird, but centimeters cubed stem from the fact that it's length times width times height. So if you had 1 centimeter, a cube that was 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, the volume would be 1 centimeter times 1 centimeter times 1 centimeter, 1 centimeter cubed. So if you see a centimeter cubed and it's like freaking you out, don't let it freak you out, all right? Just literally write it centimeters times centimeters times centimeters, and that can be helpful. And a meters cubed would be meters times meters times meters, stuff like that. So we'll talk about these, but again, chemists use liters, milliliters, and centimeters cubed almost all the time. We don't use the decimeters cubed and those kind of things very often. Oh boy. The American units, the imperial system units, are just totally messed up, in my opinion, when it comes to volume. There's pints and cups and quarts and teaspoons and tablespoons, and oh boy. You know, I've tried to cook things and I'm like, really? It's got all these weird things. It would be so simple if they just used milliliters. But anyway, good old Dr. Strange there is showing you how there's, I think it's 8 pints per gallon and 4 quarts per gallon and blah, blah, blah. It's very mesmerizing. We don't need to worry about that. All right. In chemistry, it's just milliliters, liters, and centimeters cubed. And if you know that there's 1,000 milliliters or 1,000 centimeters cubed in a liter, honestly, you're good to go and you won't have to use those things. But again, we live in this world. So if you have to, you can totally do it too. No worries.